It's April 13th, 2019. This is Andrew in Omaha, Nebraska. And today I'm going to be making this minimalist police and fire identification wallet. This is what the outside looks like. It's made out of Wickett and Craig black saddle skirting. And I split the leather down to about 2 to 3 ounces for just about all the pieces except for the piece that actually holds the badge in place, because I need a little bit more body to hold that item. But I used my Cobra Class 3 sewing machine to stitch this thing together. I've been kind of practicing with it, experimenting to see how well it does stitching thinner leathers, and so far I've been quite pleased with it. It's been doing a really good job. The machine is really easy to control, and it's very the precision is really good with it. You can get the needle exactly where you need it, and I don't have to worry about, the height of the presser foot not being enough, or the machine not being able to push through any piece of leather that you end up coming up against as you're going along. But on the back, I put 2 slots to hold cards, and this is what the inside looks like. I just have my driver's license up there at the top for demonstration purposes, but it just holds the badge, the identification, that's all it holds inside, and then the 2 cards on the back. And I also put a small piece of suede here on the spine in order to clean that up so the raw leather wasn't showing when the wallet's opened up. So I'll give you a close-up of it and some shots of the pattern that I made in order to put this together. Here's a close-up of the wallet. It's got the blank front side here, and then the 2 pockets on the back for holding cards. And then the interior, it just has the 1 spot for the department ID. I just put my driver's license in there for demonstration purposes. And then the badge is held in back here. You can put the pin through there, and then just take like an ink pen or something, and you reach it down there and flip the little clasp over in order to secure it. So here's the pattern that I made. There's a sample piece of the Wickett and Craig leather that I split down with my Class 14 leather splitter. I don't know if I'm going to ever go with this leather again, just because I've run into 2 problems with it. Number one, it's very sticky with the coating that the tannery puts on here. And what I've found is, as I'm stitching with the sewing machine, it has a tendency to want to flag, which means as the needle's coming up, the stickiness of the leather causes it to want to pull the leather up along with the needle. Also, running it through the splitter, I found that as you get down to thinner pieces, the splitter ends up wanting to scrunch up the leather, and I destroyed a couple of pieces with it. I know I've said before that the machines aren't magic. They can't do everything, and I did find some limitations with it using this leather, especially when you find weak points in the leather, like stretch marks and brands or anything like that. When it's running through the machine, you may not think that it's there, but if the slitter hits it, a lot of times it'll just scrunch up like a piece of paper, and sometimes I'll have a heck of a time getting it untangled and pulled out. This is the pattern that I came up with, just made out of poster board. Consists of these pieces here. The main body is like 9 3/4. And then these pieces here that kind of go on top. And then this piece for the badge that I made in order to get the alignment right for the mounting holes. Also, the window for the identification section, or identification panel rather, I got this from Springfield Leather. You can get a roll of it. It's pretty cheap. And then you just put your leather, once you've cut it out, over the top. I just use some two-sided sticky tape to hold it in place. Run it through the machine. You got to leave the top portion open so you can slide this through, and then you go ahead and close it off around the other three sides. This is the Wickett and Craig hide that I used, and I'm just setting the pattern on top here. I'm just going to cut around it just to get the general shape of the wallet, and then I'll run this strip here through the leather splitter, and I'll cut that scrunched up end down there on the one end off before I run it through the machine. Now I'm going to set the splitter down to about 2 to 3 ounce, or yeah, it's about 2 to 3 ounce. And as I'm cutting through here, like I said, I've had some problems with this leather, splitting it, and it's going to get kind of hung up here at the end as I'm pulling. I got to kind of pull it to get it out. So, like I said, I don't know if I'm going to go with this hide again, but I'm just going to use this old railroad tie anvil to hold down the pattern, and then I'll trace it out with my awl. Then I'll cut it out with the rotary cutter, and I'll also punch the holes for the pockets on the back side here. You'll see that shortly. The rotary cutter works really well on thick leather, thin leather, doesn't matter. I always seem to have good luck with it, and that's why I stick with it. Like I said, this is one of my go-to cutting tools for all my leather projects. Between that and my craft tool knife, these are just the way to go, in my opinion. The ends, or rather the spine of the wallet, I put these little cutouts here on the ends. It helps it lay flatter when it's closed. And I'll also put glue a little piece of suede there to cover up the flesh side once the wallet's put together. It makes it look a little more finished when it's opened up. Now here are the holes for the pockets, and this just helps reinforce the pockets so they don't tear once cards are being placed inside. I got 2 pockets I'm going to make here, and then I'll use a cheap scalpel that I got from Amazon to actually cut the slits out. Once the pockets are cut out, we're going to go with the Tyvek. You've seen me do it on other wallets and other videos, and I get the Tyvek from Maker's Leather Supply down in Texas from Aaron Heiser. It's a great company. They have great products. I highly recommend them. But you can see that the pockets are cut out just wide enough to put this card through. My old expired Tandy Club membership card that I use. I just keep it on my workbench because I'm always using it to measure out pockets for wallets. Then I'm going to, now that I have the height of the card sticking out of the pocket where I want it, I'm going to put my mark down here at the bottom, and then I'll extend the mark out to the side a little bit because you're not going to be able to see it once you begin putting the pockets in. But if you put the mark off to the side a little bit, then you can see where you need to be making your folds later on as you're putting it together. And we do the same thing with the top pocket here. Now I'm just going to cut the Tyvek. Actually, I got to make it a little narrower because this Tyvek's made to have the cards are set sideways in a larger wallet. And now I'm just going to put the sticky tape in and begin sticking the Tyvek in there to make my pockets. I use the awl here to pull the backing of the sticky tape off. It seems to work the best because when I try to do it just with my fingers, I always end up trying to pull the adhesive side of the tape up along with it. You just make your folds. I've done this several times in other videos. If you want to see details exactly on how I'm making these pockets, you can always look that up, or you can check out Aaron Heiser's videos on how he makes wallets, because that's where I got the technique from. I'm just going to stick this last piece down to make this last pocket. And the sticky tape is more than enough to hold these cards in place. Once you have the backing stitched down over the back side of it, it offers enough stability in order to hold the cards in place. It's not going to move. What I'm starting to do here is burnish the top sides of the interior pieces, because I'm not going to have access to them once they're stitched in to the wallet. And there's really no need to edge bevel these thin pieces. Burnishing, just putting a little bit of water on them and just burnishing them with this wooden burnishing tool will work just fine. Now I'm going to begin constructing the ID window. I'm going to put some sticky tape down on the perimeter of this piece of leather here, and then I'll get that clear window material that you saw me show earlier, and I'm going to stick that down onto it and then cut it out. Now what I'm about to do here, I'm going to be stitching the top side of this ID window. I'm just putting some stitch groove lines here around the inside here. But I'm just going to run one line of stitching across the tops on the edge near the window and then the top edge. And the reason I do that is because the plastic window needs to be attached to this leather frame, but it needs to be open so you can slide your your ID card in and out. The other sides will be stitched when I put the backing onto it, which you'll see here shortly. This is a Cobra Class 3 leather sewing machine, for those of you who haven't seen it before. And it's basically, it is the same machine as all the other heavy-duty stitchers like the Cobra Class 4 and the King Cobra. It just has a shorter arm, and it works perfect for all my projects. And also the size of the machine works well down here in the basement. I can just push it back here against the wall, and it's out of the way when I'm not using it. You can see that I've stitched the tops of this window down, and now I got some more sticky tape on the back of it, and I'm going to stick it down to this backing piece. Now I'm going to sew 3 sides on the inside portion of this window frame, and that's necessary in order to hold your card in the middle of the viewing portion where the clear plastic is, so the card doesn't move around. Now I'm just going to put some glue on the spine, the inside of the spine of the wallet here. And then there's a little piece of suede right there, and that's going to be glued down to the spine of the wallet. And I'm just using barge leather craft cement. Now I'm going to stick down both the ID window and the badge holder. I'm going to do the ID window first, and the top of it's got enough play that I can just roll the lip back and then run a line of stitching across the top here to attach it to the main body of the wallet. And it's also going to hold down and hide the seam of where the suede begins and ends. And then the same thing's going to happen over here on the side that holds the wallet. I'll run a line of stitching along there to hold the top portion down. And then the rest of this, the remaining sides will be stitched when I go all the way around it to stitch the whole thing together. Now I'm going to construct the portion of the wallet that holds the badge. There's a little ring here that I've cut out that goes around it. And then here's a thicker piece of leather. It's a little thicker than the rest of the wall. It's probably about 5 to 6 ounce. And I'm going to stitch the perimeter of the ring to this thicker piece of leather. And then I'll put the badge cutout that I made with the holes, the mounting holes. I'll put that over the top of it, trace it out, and then cut the holes out so the badge will line up in the center of the holder here. I'm putting a ruler between the main body there and the excess pieces of that thick piece of leather that I wanted to cut off, so I don't cut too deep and end up cutting into the portion that I want to stitch to the wallet. The wallet, or the badge, is just going to rest inside the little oval there. It's kind of like a picture frame, and it's going to be recessed back just a little bit. This would work really good for a flat badge. The badges you see like firefighters and police wearing are usually have a kind of a concave to them shape, and they sell these badge wallets that lay completely flat, so they're not pushing the wallet out when it's in your pocket. I'm just cutting out those little indentions there on the side of the wallet where the suede sticks out because the glue's dry now. And then I'll just cut the excess off. And now I'm just sticking the badge holder on, and I'm getting ready to stitch this whole thing together. This is the final round of sewing. Usually on something like a wallet or a finished piece like this, you're supposed to stitch with the outside of the wallet facing up and the inside of the wallet facing down. However, I want to make sure that the needle's going exactly where I need it to go, and there's so many little spots on this wallet that I have to sew around. I can't sit there and guess. But what I found with this Cobra Class 3 is that both the top side of the stitch and the bottom side of the stitch look really good. The knot is staying in the middle of the material, and it really helps to be able to see where the needle's going versus when I try to sew the top side and just rely solely on my stitch lines that I made. Here I am stitching the ends of the suede down so they don't end up peeling back up later on. And the stitching is now done. I'm just going to test fit the card holders on the back side. And then I'm going to go out to the belt sander and sand the edges down. Get them all even. What I found is this cheap Harbor Freight belt sander just works great for leather projects to even up the edges. Now I'm going to take my number 2 beveler and bevel both the top and bottom sides of the wallet. It's just a cheap Tandy leather edge beveler. Probably costs about $10. Now the final portion is just sanding the edges, wet sanding, burnishing with a canvas cloth and the wooden burnishing tool. And then I'll put a coat of black leather dye around the edges and then top it off with some Phoebing's edge coat. I've been working on this design for a little while now. I still have to work a few bugs out, but so far I am pretty happy the way this turned out. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching this. If you have any questions, let me know. This is Andrew in Omaha, Nebraska. Have a nice day.